Red and blue lights flickered across the quiet suburban street, bouncing off mailboxes and manicured lawns. It was usually peaceful here, the kind of neighborhood where nothing ever happened. But that night, something was happening. Curtains fluttered open. Neighbors peeked out. And in the middle of it all, a woman stood calmly on her porch, her face lit by the flashing lights. She wasn't shouting, wasn't panicking. She just waited. Across the street, Karen's hands trembled slightly as she clutched her phone. Her voice was low, but filled with pride. "I told you," she whispered to the officer she had called. Something's not right with her. To Karen, everyone had to fit the neighborhood's image. Perfect lawns, quiet manners, familiar faces. But this new woman, Maya, didn't fit. Not in Karen's eyes. The cop stepped out of their car, flashlights cutting through the night air. "Ma'am, can we see some ID?" one asked firmly. The street went silent. A few neighbors came out, whispering nervously, their faces lit by the pulsing lights. Karen folded her arms, waiting to be proven right. But instead of fear, Maya showed something else, composure. Calmly, she reached into her wallet, pulled something out, and handed it to the officer. The moment he looked at it, everything changed. His posture straightened. His voice softened. Then, to everyone's shock, he raised his hand and saluted. "Thank you for your service, ma'am." Karen froze. Service? Her lips parted, but no words came out. The other officer looked at her briefly, almost disappointed. "Your neighbor's a veteran," he said. "Air Force. Decorated." Maya didn't gloat. She didn't even smirk. She just met Karen's stunned gaze and said softly, "Still think I don't belong here?" For a few seconds, no one moved. The wind rustled the trees, a dog barked in the distance, and Karen's perfect little world cracked open. The same woman she had reported, the one she called suspicious, had served her country. And as the police cars rolled away, Karen's heart pounded, her pride burning. She didn't know it yet, but that night would change everything, for both of them. The story really began that morning, the day the moving truck rolled into Maplewood Lane, a place so quiet you could hear the mail flap close 2 houses down. Karen, as always, was watching from her front window. She called it neighborhood awareness. Everyone else just called it being nosy. The truck stopped right next door. 2 men hopped out, unloading boxes one by one. Then came her, a tall, confident black woman in jeans, a T-shirt, and a baseball cap. She smiled as she directed the movers, calm and friendly. Karen's nose wrinkled instantly. "Oh, great," she muttered under her breath, arms crossed. Another renter, probably. She didn't like new people, especially ones she hadn't approved. As Maya waved a neighbor across the street, Karen's eyes narrowed. Too friendly too soon, she thought. Something's off. By noon, the truck was empty. Maya stood in her driveway, looking at her new home, a neat white house with blue shutters and a porch swing that creaked in the wind. She smiled softly, almost like she'd found peace. But peace was the one thing Karen wasn't ready to give her. Karen stepped outside, pretending to water her plants. "Hello there," she said with that overly sweet tone people use when they don't mean it. Maya turned, genuine warmth in her eyes. "Hi, I'm Maya. Just moved in." Karen tilted her head. "Oh, from where?" "Out west," Maya replied simply. "Needed a quieter place." New start. Karen nodded, forcing a smile. "Well, we have rules here, HOA rules. You'll want to review them. We like things orderly." "Of course," Maya said kindly, though something in her eyes showed she wasn't intimidated. As Karen went back inside, she was already typing in the neighborhood group chat. "Anyone know the new woman at 214? Just making sure she's properly registered." By sunset, the gossip had begun. Some ignored her, but others fed the fire. Maya, meanwhile, sat on her porch with a cup of coffee, completely unaware that the woman across the street had already judged her. And as the night fell over Maplewood Lane, Karen stood by her window again, watching the faint light from Maya's living room. She didn't know who Maya really was. But soon she'd find out, in a way she'd never forget. Be why the second day, Karen was restless. She had spent the entire morning pacing around her living room, sipping coffee she didn't even like. From her window, she could see Maya outside, trimming her hedges, chatting with passing neighbors, laughing easily with the mailman. Too comfortable, Karen thought. Way too soon. Maplewood Lane was supposed to be predictable. The same people, the same lawns, the same smiles. But ever since Maya moved in, things felt different. People seemed warmer, friendlier, and that made Karen's skin crawl. She wanted control. She needed order. And the sight of Maya waving to the neighborhood kids felt like she was taking over. When Maya parked her car slightly over the curb that evening, Karen saw her chance. Finally, she whispered, grabbing her phone. Violation. She snapped a picture, zoomed in, and typed a long message into the HOA group chat. New resident at 214 still doesn't seem to understand parking policy. Should we send a reminder or maybe a citation? But even that didn't satisfy her. She needed to make a statement. As the sun set, painting the sky orange and pink, Karen made a decision she'd later regret. She picked up her phone and dialed 911. There's someone acting suspicious in my neighborhood, she said in a low voice. She's been hanging around cars, taking pictures, moving boxes late at night. I don't know what's going on, but it seems off. The dispatcher's calm voice asked for details. Karen exaggerated every word, describing Maya like a threat instead of a neighbor. When she hung up, she felt a strange rush, a mix of fear and power. She peeked through the blinds, waiting for the flashing lights. Minutes later, she heard them. Sirens echoed down the street. Neighbors stepped outside, whispering. Maya looked up from her porch, confused but calm. Karen stood tall, arms folded, pretending to be concerned. She didn't notice the little girl next door, watching her, frowning. Mom, the girl whispered, why is Mrs. Karen calling the police on a nice lady? The patrol car slowed, stopping in front of Maya's house. Karen smiled slightly. Finally, she said under her breath, now she'll learn the rules. But what she didn't realize was that she was the one about to be taught a lesson. The two patrol cars pulled up quietly, their headlights cutting through the dark like searchlights. Neighbors began gathering on porches, whispering behind hands. Karen stood proudly near her mailbox, pretending to be calm, though her heart was racing with self-satisfaction. Just keeping the neighborhood safe, she muttered, straightening her blouse. The first officer, a tall man with a calm voice, stepped out. Evening, ma'am. We got a call about some suspicious activity. His tone was polite but firm. Maya stood on her porch, her expression unreadable. Suspicious? She asked softly. What kind of activity? Karen quickly stepped forward. That's her, she said, pointing. She's been moving boxes at night, parking wrong and acting strange. I'm just concerned, officer. The officer looked at her, then turned back to Maya. Ma'am, can we see some identification? The entire street went quiet. Even the cicadas seemed to stop. Maya didn't argue, didn't roll her eyes, didn't even sigh. She simply nodded, walked back inside for a moment, and returned with her wallet. She handed her ID over silently. The officer took one look at it, and his posture instantly changed. His eyes widened slightly, and then he stood straight, shoulders squared. He handed the ID back with both hands, his voice now respectful. Thank you for your service, ma'am. The words hit the air like a thunderclap. Karen blinked, confused. Service? What service? She asked, forcing a laugh. The officer glanced at her with mild irritation. Your neighbor here is a retired Air Force major, he said firmly. 20 years of service. Several commendations. She's not suspicious. She's a hero. Karen's mouth went dry. The word major echoed in her mind. Around her, the neighbors shifted awkwardly, eyes darting between Maya and her. Maya finally spoke, her tone calm but sharp enough to cut through the night. Still think I don't belong here? She asked quietly. Karen couldn't find her voice. Her hands trembled slightly as the officers nodded to Maya and left, their sirens fading into the distance. The crowd slowly dispersed, whispering among themselves. For the first time, Karen didn't feel like the protector of the neighborhood. She felt small, exposed. And deep inside, shame began to replace her pride. But it was only the beginning of what Maya's quiet strength would teach her. The next morning, Maplewood Lane felt different. The usual cheerful greetings were replaced by awkward silence. Curtains fluttered as people peeked out, pretending not to stare. Everyone had seen what happened the night before, how the woman Karen called suspicious had turned out to be a decorated Air Force veteran. The story spread fast, faster than Karen could control it. Karen stayed inside most of the day, her blinds half closed. She couldn't look anyone in the eye. The same neighbors who once admired her for keeping things tidy now looked at her differently, like she was a problem all along. Guilt hung over her like heavy rain. Meanwhile, Maya went about her day as if nothing had happened. She mowed her lawn, helped an elderly neighbor carry groceries, and smiled when kids rode past on bikes. Her calmness wasn't arrogance. It was strength, quiet, steady strength that made people respect her without her saying a word. That afternoon, Karen finally stepped outside, clutching a small plate of cookies, her awkward peace offering. She walked up Maya's driveway, forcing a shaky smile. "Hi, I, wanted to apologize," she began. "I didn't realize who you were." Maya looked at her for a long moment, then spoke softly. "You didn't need to realize who I was," she said. "You just needed to treat me like everyone else." Her tone wasn't angry. It was honest, and that honesty stung more than any insult could have. Karen's eyes dropped. "You're right," she whispered. "I was wrong." Maya nodded, taking the plate politely. "It takes courage to admit that," she said. "Let's just move forward." And that's exactly what they did, slowly. Over the next few weeks, something unexpected happened. Karen began to change. She volunteered for the local Veterans Drive. She listened instead of judging. She stopped gossiping and started asking, "How can I help?" But even as time passed, she never forgot that night. The sirens, the flashing lights, and Maya's steady eyes. It became her reminder that people aren't what they seem, and assumptions can wound deeper than words. Every morning after that, Karen would glance at Maya's porch, where an Air Force flag waved proudly. And though Maya forgave her silence long ago, Karen still wondered one thing every time she saw it flutter. Would she ever forgive herself?